Uncle Fester was good.
What's up, man? How you doing?
All right, all right. Welcome to Strictly for My Diggers, Season 4, Episode 4.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. So, where you checking in from?
I'm from Halifax, Nova Scotia, on the east coast of Canada.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. What's the vibe like out there?
Oh man, right now it's winter as hell, man.
Mm-hmm.
it's it's cold and snowy right now.
Mm-hmm.
But man, the vibe is pretty chill out here. It's like the city that I live in is like a real like blue collar and artistic city too. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like one of the biggest art universities in North America is here. So like we got like a lot big. I've had a big art scene here forever, big music and art. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man, real creative vibe here, but also like blue collar too. And so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man,
Right.
that's kind of the vibe of the city.
Gotcha. So your credits read you're a producer, an engineer, and a DJ. So which one came first?
DJ.
DJing. Yeah, I
Yeah.
figured that. I figured that. And since you're a DJ, I'm sure you're a digger. I'm sure you have mad vinyl.
Yep.
Mad vinyl. Still, are you still digging to this day?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Okay, got you, got you. So you started DJing first, and then what led you into like beat making?
Um, I mean, I always wanted to beat make, right? Just DJing was the easiest thing at first, right?
Hmm.
Like me and my boy, like getting like tables and mixers together and like getting vinyl together and like learning to cut and juggle and mix and blend and all that stuff, right? Like that was like the easiest thing to do, like just financially and just like learning. Well, like that was the easiest thing, right? So that was the first thing. But like beats was always like an aspiration of
Hmm.
mine, like because I always like admired, like I always admired like the large professors and stuff like that, and like I remember seeing that first large professor video, mad scientist with the he had the turntables and he sets it up on the roof and like dudes who did like a bunch of different things, like that always like really appealed to me. I always thought that that was super dope. So that was always kind of the goal, but just DJing was the easiest thing to get into. So yeah, then I just started making beats with my boys, right? Like with my dudes who I was coming up with. And I kind of came up in an age where like there was still samplers and hardware,
Right.
just as it was crossing over into computers and like the beginning of like Reason and the beginning of Fruity Loops and like using Pro Tools and Logic and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
I get to see the best of both worlds, right? So
Right.
I feel like I kind of learned to make beats twice almost, right? Like learned to make it on hardware and then learned again on computers almost. So
Right. 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 So when you started with hardware, what was your first piece of equipment?
Um, the first gear that it was like me and like two of my roommates, like we had like I forget what it was called. It was like a Roland sampler, and
Hmm.
we needed like we also needed like the sequencer with it as well. So we had
Oh
like
wow.
it was like a Roland, like I forget what it was like. It was numbers, like it's not an 808, but like
Hmm.
it's like a 505 and something else. It was like their sampler and the sequencer combo.
Right.
So that was the first piece of gear we had. And like I said, it was early computer. It was like that, and then we would track to like early Logic audio, like
Hmm.
which is like for people that don't know, it's like a Pro Tools type of
Right.
recording program, DAW. So like we just basically had like we even at that point we still had like an 8 track, right, and like an
Right.
Oakmore
Yes.
mixer and stuff like that, right. So we had like a combo of that stuff.
Hmm.
And it was just like the three of us like pooling our resources, getting like a turntable, a mixer. So like two of us were learning to do cuts, and like we were all diggers, and we were all like, you know what I mean? So
Right.
yeah, man. So like yeah, like my boy Fresh Kills was my roommate at the time. He's like a
Hmm.
bigger Canadian producer and has won a bunch of beat battles up here and is sponsored by Akai and is a
Right.
really dope live MPC player as well. But yeah, man, we just came up and we started making beats and just kind of like learning the ropes and finding MCs, like locally
Hmm.
in the beginning to work with.
Right. So was that machine and that sequence? How was the workflow on that? Was it very difficult to make beats on it?
Man, fine. That's trying to remember what that is like is kind of is wild to me, right? Like,
Mm.
um, but it was kind of like it's kind of like antiquated technology at this point. You know what I mean? It was pretty like rudimentary. at that point we were just kind of like
Mhm.
starting to like layer loops and stuff like that. We weren't doing a lot
Right.
of complicated
Mhm.
production techniques other than just like filtering loops and layering breaks and doing
Mhm.
some chopping and stuff like that. But even at that point, like we were like
Mhm.
we was pretty rudimentary. So
Right.
but yeah, it wasn't an ideal workflow really at
Mhm.
that point. Like I like quickly computers started to appeal to us more because like it was just more powerful, right? For like it
Right.
was just a easier bang for our buck. We were a bunch of like broke dudes living together trying to make it work, right? Like we're just
Right.
like 19, 20 years old, like just
Mhm.
not caring about school or whatever, just worrying about like trying to do trying to do music or whatever.
Right. 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 So, what are you using now?
I use an MPC Renaissance. I've been using that for like 7 years now.
Mhm. Now, do you see yourself upgrading, or are you going to stay with that Renaissance?
I mean, at some point, inevitably, I'm gonna have to.
Mhm. And,
You know,
and well, why do you say that? Just wondering.
I mean, just because like the way that technology now, like all
Mhm.
samplers integrate with a computer, no matter what kind
Right.
of now.
Mhm.
Like there's always an outboard element to some of like the MPCs and the machines or whatever. Um, Especially with the MPC live units, like the different stuff they have going on.
Mhm.
But it all ultimately interfaces with computers, right? So as like operating systems update and stuff like
Right.
that. Like I just did a big update of my like computer and operating system, and I like engineers and producers know when that happens, man. That's like a that's like a frightening thing because like are
Mhm.
all your plugins and all your sessions going to move over and is all your software going to work? And like oftentimes, man, that stuff is like a wild headache. And I feel like I was sort of like watching the list of what my sampler is supported by, and I'm like, I
Mhm.
just made this upgrade with my sampler without it being like obsolete and not able to function, right?
Right. Right.
So it was kind of a wake up call to me after like 7 years of like, but it's fine, like they make a lot of dope MPCs. It's gonna be
Right.
fine.
Right.
But it's one of those things you get in a comfort zone for a long time. But like,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, do you think that you can be a successful beat maker still using, let's say, the SB 1200, the MPC 2000 XL, and actually be actively, quote unquote, competing out here with the other beat makers who are getting placements within the underground?
yeah, absolutely. I've used a lot of different like I've made an album with an SP12 before, like
Mhm.
my boy Relic from the Toronto area.
Mhm.
Um, he had an SP12, and like when I grew up, I was kind of like obsessed with the idea of the SP12
Right.
because that was my favorite producers were using it. Like I kind of
Mhm.
wanted to like be able to like like does it really have that sound? Does it like you know what I mean? So like I like found the manual for it and like read that shit before I ever used it. Like
Mhm.
I knew like so when I got to use that SP12, I was like,
You just picked it up.
yeah, exactly. Just picked it right up, right? I mean, it's
Mhm.
got its limitations, but like that's what's dope about it too. So
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, like I feel like, and the thing is when you make those switches as a producer, like all the general concepts are still there, and I feel
Right.
like when you change over to a new platform like that, like it really forces you to like get out of your comfort zone, and I find it always results in a level up for me personally.
Mm.
Like whenever I make that change, it always results in like in learning a new skill or a new trick or a new perspective on things or like and that results with even just like using the MPC Renaissance over the like
Mhm.
differently over the years as well and like adding new like little plugins or new little tricks or new little things like that because I find it always forces me to like approach beats differently and adds a new trick into the tool belt, I guess.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. So, with the NPC Renaissance, did you read the manual beforehand, or did you just play with it and just pick it up on the fly?
Nah, it was one of those things where like I had actually seen I was at my boy DJ So Nice's house
Hmm.
in Ottawa. I was on tour at the time with the group I was in,
Hmm.
and I was staying. He was a homie of mine,
Right.
and I was staying with him, and he had just come out. He had got it,
Hmm.
and I sort of saw the way that like it was like an outboard. It was just when MPC was starting to do outboard samplers that were also integrated with the computers as well.
Yeah.
So and to me, like that like dual thing, like that like appealed to me so and the way he was using it, like
Hmm.
instant, like I saw him and saw the way it was working, and I was like, yo, if I
Right.
get one of these, it's a wrap. And then, like I said, my boy Fresh Skills was sponsored by Akai, and he had a couple different units. And after I got married, actually, he came through on a tour that he was doing with DMC champion DJ Vect, and he brought through the MPC Renaissance as like a wedding gift after.
That was nice of him.
Yeah, man. Like he had a couple different units, from Akai,
Yeah.
and that's my brother, right? And he came
Mhm.
through and blessed me, man, with that, and like it's been my main, and like it like clicked like I thought it would when I saw it, right? And so, yeah. So that to me, like the decision was kind of made for me, right? Like I
Yeah.
didn't have to research it or whatever. Like I just saw it in action and was like, okay, this feels like something like that. I felt like was going to be in my future as a producer,
Right.
and like just by the way fates happened, my boy just happened to have a couple
Mhm.
extra things kicking around and decided to be like a good brother and bless me on my wedding. So yeah, man, it was all good. Like that's just the way it was meant to happen for that, I guess.
Right. So, what do you think you'll be leveling up to next after the MPC Renaissance?
That's a great question, man. It'll almost certainly be an Akai MPC unit of some whatever. Like
You're always going to stick with a Kai. Is that
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah,
go-to?
yeah. That's what I've been used to. Like I have a
Mhm.
2000 XL, like an old
Mhm.
Opal, like you know what I mean. Like I've used some different MPCs through my life, so.
Mhm. Do you still use the XL or not really?
Not just because it needs maintenancing. It
Mhm.
needs like, it needs some screen work, and like I need somebody who knows it. Like I know some people you can send stuff to, and someday I plan to get it like up
Yeah.
and running again. Like I know someday I'll get the itch to do it. So
Yeah, because they have this website MPC stuff that's
yeah,
based somewhere in North Carolina. They do
yeah,
all of that. They buy your MPC, resell it, and things like that. So that's also an option. So now let's talk about the sampling and all that, and let's get deeper into the beat science. Like, so you're a digger, and does all your sounds come from record?
no, no.
Well, what's the percentage did you say comes from record? What percentage of your sounds?
70, 60, 70, something like that.
Okay.
I'm
Hmm.
trying to think. Like it used to be all records. It was all records for a very long time.
Right.
Um, but I've just learned that over time, like I've just become less of a
Hmm.
I don't even know. I just it didn't for a while. Like it was for a while. Records were the best place to get stuff, but it's not necessarily anymore. And like there is some stuff online that like
Hmm.
it's getting harder and harder to find records, right?
Right.
And and I'm not necessarily saying that for myself, to be honest, because I have a lot of records that I haven't even tapped yet that are like
Yeah.
here in my spot, right?
Hmm.
Like I have thousands of records I've been digging for a long time. I
Hmm.
got some dope shit. I'm real lucky. Um, but that stuff doesn't last forever, right? This like
Hmm.
um it's like Alchemist often talks about how it's the last wave of record sampling
Yeah.
right now. And I believe him, and I think that like it's like there's very I mean I don't know if there are records like even the things that were the really rare stuff like the library stuff and like
Mhm.
foreign records and stuff like that, like even that stuff is getting pretty turned over now, right? Like and um so sampling needs to evolve, right? So like
Mhm.
I recently in the last number of years I've really opened myself up to like sampling from other sources, and
Mhm.
I've always been into like sampling from like movies and
Okay.
video games and stuff like that, right? But I mean, like, like finding musicians to work with who can recreate a sound that is like
Mhm.
true to what I would sample off of a record,
Mhm.
and things like that. You know what I mean? And like sample creation and just things like that. You know what I mean? Like I've opened myself up to those things in the last number of years as well, because I think that like um, if we don't open ourselves up as producers to like newer music, like sampling newer music that's made for like for you to sample, like maybe like I'm lucky that I know a lot of really amazing musicians
Mhm.
that I can like get like I'm starting to been doing a lot more of that over the last number of years.
Right.
Um, so I really believe in sort of like sampling of evolving as well. So
Mm.
I've moved away from doing the just the records thing.
Just the records. Now, do you still go digging but it's not. Is the frequency you digging is it has it declined a bit?
It's just changed in the last number of years for me a little bit. Like I did so much sample digging for such a long time. Like I said, like I got man, like I got I'm still
Right.
sitting on stacks of dope stuff. Like
Hmm.
I'm real lucky that I came up on like a lot of library records
Hmm.
in a time when that wasn't like as prevalent.
Right.
And I've been digging for a long time. So in the last number of years, I've been just trying to like get my '90s rap a vinyl collection
Hmm.
shored up. You know what I mean? So
Right.
like I've been actually like focusing more on that record wise and just using what I have
Hmm.
sample wise because I've been sitting on a gang of stuff.
Right.
Plus, I said like working with musicians and stuff like that too. So
Right. So when you make when
I still do some for sure.
okay, absolutely. So, do you ever go back into your record collections, just of records you sampled before, and re-listen? And do you ever hear anything different
Yep,
and
all the time. Yep.
make something? And how often do you think you do that?
I mean, the cycle is like years, to be honest. I feel like because um, like there are some records that I've gone back to recently that I really probably didn't really touch since I first started making beats. Really,
Right.
um, s- uh, for me, I think the cycle, because like I said, because I've been collecting for long enough that the cycle can be longer, and I think that that's positive because like who I am now as a producer is so different than who I was
You're
then.
right. Right.
Um,
And would you say like your ear when you do that, does it allow you to see how your ear has evolved
oh yeah, yeah.
and how you've grown to listen to records and hear things that you didn't hear maybe years back?
Oh man, 100%. Absolutely it does. You
Mhm.
know, like that's it's kind of amazing actually, like
Right.
what I didn't hear before,
Right.
in a certain way,
Mhm.
like um yeah, absolutely, man. Like, like I could listen to my beats through the years
Mhm.
and you can hear how I approach sampling,
Right, gotcha,
you know.
gotcha. So with the music game, and it's going so fast, even within the underground genre, it's moving fast, and we're pumping out beats. We got to pump out beats at a faster rate. Do
Mhm.
you think that that's the reason why, like, there might not be a lot of digging like you used to because you may have to go to what sample packs now? I mean, is
Mhm.
do you think that's what it is? Because there's so many people out here making beats and
Mhm.
people are pumping out projects back to back to back to back to back to back. It's like you always have to constantly seem like you always have to constantly make beats and you have to make them like pretty quick.
Yeah, man. I think that I think you really touched on something there, actually, man. Like, I think that that's like really, like,
Mhm.
really, like, that's like a really like observant
Like,
thing
do you
because
really have time? Like, do you really have time to be digging and going like back in the day when albums didn't come out as frequently? But it seems like an artist that you may work with and the artist you're consistently having to put yourself out there
Mhm.
that you don't really have time to sit there and
Oh,
dig
man,
through records anymore, you know?
a-
And
abs-
it's
I mean, absolutely, and like I was saying before, like I've been in a position the last 5, 6, 7 years where I've been sitting on a gang of samples.
Mhm,
I'm in a groove as a producer. Like when I got this renaissance is really when like
mhm.
my I mean, for lack of a better word, man, is when my renaissance as a producer happened. Because I was in a me and my boy Fresh Kills, we were a production duo for a long time.
Right.
So like being able to like just focus on my own stuff obviously like changed my skill level after a couple of years of just focusing on myself, right?
Mm,
So like, it's just yeah, it's just amazing how sitting on all that amount of samples already and
mm.
being in a groove and being in a place where I could produce a ton of beats
Right.
really went served me, right? Served me really well as a producer. Um and because you're so right, man, like you do need to produce at a higher range. There's a lot of
Mhm.
competition is
It's
really
out
high,
there, man.
man.
It's so many. It's a lot. And you said you were in a production duo, right? Just
Mhm.
you and your partner.
Yeah.
So as a production duo, how does that work? Do you make beats, he make beats, and y'all just put it together as a pack and y'all push it out? Or does he make a beat and then he gives it to you and you add to it, you make a beat, you give it to him, he adds to it? How does that work?
Well, like when we started making beats together, we were roommates, so we would like be in the same space, right? So
Mhm.
we would sort of like his strength at the beginning was
Mhm.
drum programming, and
Right,
I had a real knack for finding dope samples and like
right.
or even like after I found we found samples, I was really good at finding things that matched in key and were could layer or
Mhm.
be additional samples and things like that. So like that's kind of how we kind of started was like focusing on that area each and coming together with the same beats and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And then over the years, we just formed a groove. And like as technology evolved and we moved on with our lives or whatever,
Mhm.
we would work remotely and stuff like that. We would still be in like a group together and stuff like that. So we'd be like chilling in the studio together and stuff like that, but also working remotely and stuff like that. So we kind of worked in a couple different ways. You know what I mean? Like we learned to work in different ways. And I was more of a natural DJ, and he did a lot of like live MPC drumming. So
Mhm.
we sort of had this uh, element like that. We were
Mhm.
actually really lucky because he was engineer for K-Cut from the main source.
Yes.
Lived in
Okay.
Toronto. He was his engineer for a long time.
Mhm.
And we got to know Ali Shaheed Muhammad through K-Cut, and we got to like work with Ali Shaheed. Um, and this was the time that's around the time that the Tribe documentary was coming out, just before actually.
Right.
And Ali really uh, talked to us about how him and Q-Tip produced together.
Mhm.
They talk about in the documentary, and like it was interesting how it was like similar to what Kills and I
Mhm.
Kills was more of a classically trained musician.
Mhm.
And I was more of the hip hop DJ guy. And we were both like diggers and into records and stuff like that. So like that to us, that was real inspirational, like to get that chance to see that perspective and
Right.
understand we how we worked as a duo. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
you see some duos through hip hop, but I
Right.
never understood how they work together.
Right.
And I figured like we just figured out our own rhythm
Mhm.
just through who we were as friends, you know what I mean? As
Right.
homies, right? So until we were lucky enough to work with Ali a little bit,
Mhm.
um I never had that perspective before about how that worked, right? So
Right. Gotcha. So now that you're solo, I guess making beats on your own, what are some of the challenges that you have as a beat maker? As far as what's your weaknesses or that you think you need to work on as far as beats? Like
good.
I know mine is like bass lines.
Mm.
You know, what's like for you? What's the challenge for you?
For years I said it was bass lines, but I think I've worked so much on my bass lines over the years that like I've
Mhm.
gotten a lot of compliments in the last number of years on my bass line. So I
Mhm.
kind of like put my head down and focused on it so hard, and then I started to get some compliments. I was like, oh, okay, I think
Mhm.
and then I realized I'm getting happier with how that goes. But that's a really good question, man. That's a really good. I feel like over the years I've been happy with my drums, my drum programming, and sampling breaks versus programming and having a mix of
Mhm.
different
Mhm.
elements and getting and percussion and all that kind of stuff. But I
Mhm.
feel like that's stagnated for me over the last little years. Just like that, maybe I want to try adding to my drum palette in terms of different types of programming, different types of rhythms and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Um, so I feel like that's always a way that I could change things up a little bit as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean that's a great and then for me always too and mixing. Like I always love mixing and engineering, and then I'm always trying to like level up the overall sound as well as I
Right. Right.
go.
So how do you overcome what we call like beat block? Are there days when you get on the and it just nothing comes out? It's just nothing ever connects.
Mm,
How do you does it happen? How long does it last? Does it last for a day or two? Does it last weeks? Does it last a few months? This
mm.
beat block where just nothing connects. You're trying to put something hot together, it just doesn't connect.
For I do get it. For me, it's like I always want to make beats. Like I love making beats. Like and it's
Right.
like I'm lucky enough where like, you know, me and my me and my wife, we don't have kids. It's just the two
Mhm.
of us. Uh she's mad she's mad cool. Like she's into the
Mhm.
same things that like I'm into. I
Mhm.
get I get my like a lot of time at my art, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
In my life. So like and I love it. and
Right.
I love doing beats, right? Like I'm bored if I'm not doing that
Right.
kind of stuff, right? Like so, but like you said, some days it doesn't come together, right? Like some days it's like,
Right.
um, so I'm lucky enough that like as an engineer, I work on projects, I'm mixing projects.
Hmm.
I have tons of my own projects I'm producing for on the go. I DJ, I do lots of cuts.
Hmm.
So I have lots of different elements to like. So sometimes if the beats aren't working, maybe I focus on doing some like cuts that day, or
Right.
like, you know what I mean. So I get to keep like working on stuff,
Hmm.
and I find it never really lasts too long,
Hmm.
unless like just like recently this week I was playing a lot of shows. I play in like a soul R&B group up here in Canada. It's this guy named Aquaculture. He's a soul singer rapper up here. It's like a
Right.
one of the country's biggest soul R&B acts, and
Hmm.
I'm lucky enough to be part of the band. And
Hmm.
we just had a big week. It was a big week of shows here where I'm at, and rehearsals and stuff. And like when that happens, like,
Right.
you know, like I maybe like made like two, three beats in the last 7, 8 days, and that's weird for me. Like that's very low. That's a very low amount. And like and they were quick. They were quick too because I was like
Right.
I had a couple minutes I felt like doing, you know, like I had an hour or two I felt like doing something.
Hmm.
But usually I make a lot more than that. So like, you know, when a week like that happens where I'm focused elsewhere,
Right.
um, you know, that's when some of that stuff comes because I don't have time to focus. I'm tired. I sit
Right.
down and like, you know, it just things don't work sometimes, right? So
Mhm. So you say you have a huge output of beat when you make beats. You make within the week how many beats?
I mean, if I'm making beats every day, like just to get real specific about it, I work at a radio station. I'm a radio producer.
Hmm.
Um, and um, so and if I'm not there, then I'm here in my home studio or hanging with my wife, right? So most days I get like a good chunk of time to work on my music and stuff like that. So like I'm making at least one beat a day has been my goal for years and years and years.
Hmm.
To make one beat a day, and often it's more than that. So usually it's a couple beats a day, if not one. So like I'll say like, you know, like 12 beats of 10 to 12 beats a week, I guess maybe.
Okay. So how many of them would you say would be keepers a lot of time? Or the others, or there's some that you feel are throwaways, like or they're all like bangers, and you just like, yo, these.
Yeah, you know, like it's funny how that works, right? Like, because even
Mhm.
sometimes things that like I don't think are good, like other people will be like, "Yo, that's like I'll be
Right.
going through stuff and an MC will be like, "Yo, like slow down, what was that?" And I'll be like,
Right.
"Oh, no, no, no." And they'll be like, "No, play that. That's good." So,
Mhm.
but like I know what, yeah, but there is like I would say like, you know, like 75% of the stuff is gets kept or used in some way, you know what I mean?
Right. Right.
You,
Now, have you ever had a beat that you didn't like until you heard someone rhyme to it?
yeah. I mean, I don't think a beat I ever didn't like gets to the point where somebody rhymes on it, but there's definitely beats that maybe like skeptical of,
Hmm.
or like even like if I'm working on a project with a rapper, like
Hmm.
sometimes my least favorite tracks
Right.
because of the beat, after it becomes a track, I'm like, oh, okay, I was kind of like
Hmm.
tripping on that. I see the, you know, like I almost didn't see the vision of my own beat sometimes, you know, like,
Right.
and somebody else had to like help bring that to light. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So
Definitely.
you know, it's strange how that happens sometimes.
Yeah. So, with that being said, you work in the studio with a lot of the artists that you work with, correct?
Yeah, it's a mix of both for
Hmm.
sure. You know
Right.
what I mean? Because like in order like for me to like to expand as much as I want to, like I've had to, you know, I want to work with people outside of my city and my
Right.
country and, you know, and stuff like that. And luckily through touring with different groups and rappers over the years,
Mhm.
I've gotten to expand my network through meeting people one on one, and
Right.
then like meeting, you know, like through how this, you know, you meet somebody and then you meet somebody else through them and that type of thing.
Right.
So I've
Right.
been lucky to have some people who I work with remotely as well.
Absolutely, because I heard the project you did with AP, the Overlord. You know, I know you work with John Creasy a lot and things like that. So, how do those relationships come about? Do they approach you, or you approach them?
With the terms of AP, um, the he started to he found me somehow online,
Hmm.
and he was liking some of my beats and stuff. And uh if I notice rappers like my beats, I'll just be like, okay, who is this person? Are they good? Do I
Hmm.
like them? Because if they like my beats and I like the raps, let's
Right.
try to see what happens. You know what I mean? And I liked his stuff, and then I saw he was advertising um like a cheap feature or something like that.
Hmm.
It was real reasonable, and I usually actually don't pay to be honest. I don't ever really pay for not that I have anything against that. Like, I've just been
Right.
lucky enough to make a lot of natural connections
Right.
through different parts of my musical
Hmm.
life, man. I've just been really lucky, the privilege that way, and like I just prefer to do it that way personally. Um, but I saw this and I really had been liking what I'd been seeing from AP a lot. I thought he was really creative. I don't think he sounds like these people, but I think he's got like similar energies to like uh, uh, a Doom or Old Dirty. He's got like a real original perspective on things, and I think he's going to continue to grow and do
Right.
lots of things over his career. And so I was like, all right, man. Like, I reached out to him. I was like, man, that's dope. I'd like to take advantage of that. Let's do that.
Right.
And he was like, word. He was like, so send me some beats, and I sent some beats to him, and he was like, yo, these beats are dope. So blah blah blah. And he was speaking about like multiple things. And I thought we were talking about one track.
Right.
And he was like, yo, let's do like an
Mhm.
EP together.
Right.
And I was like, okay, word. And then he kept me back to me again. He was like, actually, man, I heard these beats again. He's like, don't send me no money, man. He's like, these beats are crazy. Like, let's just work.
Right.
So I was like, all right. And then it was just happened like that. And we started working, and then we just stayed
Hmm.
in touch often and started working on stuff. And just developed a friendship through working on music back and forth like that. That just kind of happened by chance, really. So
Right. So it sounds like you do hip hop full time.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I work at a radio station too.
Hmm.
Um, not 100% full time, but between my home studio and doing that, like I have like, that's my full time work.
Right. Now, as far as selling beats, do you sell a lot of beats? Like, is there money in being a sample based beat maker just selling beats?
Yeah, there is.
There is.
It takes work, like you said, man. Like, it's because the market is, you can get cheap people. Some people, you can get cheap beats anywhere, man.
Right.
Like, it's not hard to get cheap beats out there. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Um, so you got to build connections, like like as an independent producer, or you got to
Mhm.
have, or you got to get a name. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right.
And like, certain levels of success as a producer will produce certain amounts of business. Really, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that's like I've learned as I slowly progress through my career, like that stuff is slowly increased through my life and through my connections and through like the more people get up on what I'm doing, then I've been lucky that I do sell some beats,
Right.
but for me, it's a combination. Like, I would never survive on just selling beats ever.
Right.
Like,
That's what I was wondering. So for like a person who's unknown, who's making beats, let's say in his bedroom, and he wants to get out there and do the same thing you're doing, producing for the APs and all the John Creases of the world. Would you suggest that he reach out to these guys and give them free beats? Do you suggest that he, make beats and put them on his Instagram and hope someone hears them? Or do you think he should just find a crew to get with and make beats, maybe via like how Little Brother and Derringer and Gazelda did it?
mhm.
And then hopefully, they'll grow and then he can get outside work outside of that camp. What do you think is the best way for like that bedroom producer to get his name out?
If you can find someone
Mhm.
in your vicinity, if you can find a crew to get with, if you can find other producers, other MC, like especially if you're a producer who wants to get a name, if you can find an MC that you like that works around you, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's to me, like, that's the way you get your foundation. I really believe that, because like
Mhm.
those are like, like, until you're established and you can hold your own and you have experience, and
Mhm.
like I don't, it just on long distance internet relationships, I don't know, like that seems tough. That seems tough to me, to be honest. Like,
Right.
I mean, it can work if you're like really dope, but I mean, even those relationships eventually have to turn into real life relationships. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Right. Indeed.
so I think if it's possible to do like, and it's not possible for everyone, right?
Hmm.
But if it is, like, try to get out to shows, like, see what's going on in your local scene, and make those connections because, like, I think that that's really where your foundation, especially because you can find if you can find talented people to work with as well,
Hmm.
then you could both be building on that same level.
Right.
And then it's a combination. Then you start to reach out to people, and and I think that people a trap that young true producers fall into, not even just young producers in
Mhm.
general, is that they sell themselves too cheap as well. And I feel like if you start selling beats for 25, $50, man, that's all you're going to be
Right.
ever. People don't want to pay you more than that once they do that, right? Like,
Mhm.
and I feel like if for me, it was better to build authentic relationships with people
Mhm.
by just like finding like-minded people who wanted to work rather than selling a beat for cheap because
Oh,
people didn't want to pay me because they didn't know who I was, right?
right.
So until you get some sort of a name and some sort of a reputation,
Right.
you I feel like you got to let those go. You got to be willing to like put yourself out there. You know what I mean? So
Right. Right. So, I mean, are rappers or MCs, are they actually buying beats like a Husk Kingpin or Conway the Machine? I'm sure they have many people in their DM flooding them with beats.
I don't think those guys are buying unless you're Alchemist
Mhm.
or Derringer or something like that. You're not getting approached with cash offers for your beats. You know what I mean? Like that's not happening on for those dudes on those levels. It's not like
Mhm.
there is a certain level of the underground that people have MCs that people have heard of that do pay for stuff. But again, that comes actually with more of like a mutual relationship when you build a respect with somebody else and like
Right.
they understand like a lot of times on the independent mid-level circuit, like that's how things work.
Mhm.
Like like because the everyone wants to get paid. The guy is doing the art, the guy that's doing the beats, the guy that's doing the thing. So there's even amongst people that I consider friends that I know in person that I built with for a long time,
Mhm.
like my homies who I built up with, like we still to this day do I like if it's not like a direct exchange, like I'll record you, you do some art for me, we
Mhm.
still will exchange from time. We'll exchange like a certain amount of money for services because
Right.
we want that respect for each other. You know what I mean? And like, and I'm lucky enough that like I have, I invest back into my music. I make money from my music, and I'm able to invest back into it. Right. So, um, and I think that once you get involved in music long enough in the scene and you're doing it long enough that you realize that like sometimes establishing a relationship with someone doesn't even necessarily mean that things are free all the time. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
people are professionals. Certain people are professionals at this and do this sometimes full time, and some people don't. So you just got to figure out how those relationships work with
Mhm.
people, right? So
Yeah.
it's like there's no set
Mhm.
science for each set scenario, right? Like
Right.
it's the Wild West, really, still,
Right.
even to this day.
Right. You see that because everybody's trying to get a buck and use leverage and things like that.
Mhm.
Now, do you find that it's probably easier to get with an artist, let's say an AP, a John Creasy, and just do the splits?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, for sure, absolutely.
Mhm.
Because, like I said, like AP and I were just kind of like it started off with with a respect for each other type of thing, and it built like that, and it's always been that. Like he's always showing me the respect, and to me as a producer, like I've worked with a lot of different MCs over the years, a lot of different artists,
Right.
and that respect means a lot to me. You know what I mean? If an artist instantly understands that credit, like that my
Mhm.
name and credit being accredited means a lot to me, and having
Absolutely.
the proper splits done for royalties means like those are two incredibly important things for a producer to
Right.
always be on top of. Like those things will gain you momentum over time
Mhm.
financially and like both as like a known commodity, right? Like
Right.
those are really important things that I think that young producers really should focus on. And when an MC shows you that respect or an artist shows you that respect right away, and
Mhm.
always has that respect for you, I think that to me that's become a really important thing. And both AP and Creasy are
Right.
examples of dudes who have
Right.
showed me nothing but respect in that regard. So like it's easy for me to build with them on that
Right.
level.
So, like, when you're dealing with these guys, is there paperwork involved, like contracts you have to sign back and forth, or it's really like on a handshake? Like,
It depends on the scenario because sometimes we're releasing stuff with labels.
hmm
And when the labels become involved, there's contracts, right? So
hmm
but then it's just a contract with the label. The label will share something with us and we'll talk
hmm
about it. Hey, how do we feel about this? About
right,
the money, the splits, the amount of vinyl we're getting you or whatever.
right,
And you know, you sort of you make those decisions and then there's sort of, you know, just the like implicit contract of like
hmm
DistroKid for your online distribution when you do your splits and stuff like that.
right.
Um, but yeah, man, it's all pretty much just like talked out like a handshake deal, and then if a label gets involved, then contracts get involved. So
Got you. Now, I usually say this every time I, talk to a beat maker. What I would like to see, right? Like, you put the album together with an artist, y'all doing the splits. The artist gets money from the split, you get money from the split. That same artist can go and perform those songs, which you get kind of like left out of.
mhm,
So it's like, let's hypothetically, an AP is getting hot off the album you did with him or the project you did with him. He's getting shows, he's getting tours.
mhm,
I would love for him to, cut you in on that show money and let you do like a beat set,
mm,
open up for them for a beat set. I
mhm,
like to see a lot of beat makers get that type of respect.
mhm,
I would also like to see more beat makers go on tour, like
mm,
rappers do, just beat makers
mhm,
going on tour, and playing some of the beats that they've made over the years with the different artists and things like that. And some of the artists will come out, spit a verse, perform real quick, spit a verse over the beat, and then they exit stage left, where the beat maker is the star of the show. I would love
mhm.
to see that as well.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know,
I agree with you. Well, actually, it's funny. The group I had with my boy Fresh Kills, the Extremities, that was the whole premise of it. Is that we didn't know how to like. We were
Mhm.
working with lots of other artists, but we were like, how do we showcase us? So he
Right.
was like, I'll do the live MPC thing, you do the live DJ thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes we'd bring some other live musicians with us and stuff like that, but we would always focus around, we'd both be doing beats at the same time, and I'd be DJing, and he'd pick up
Mhm.
like an instrument, and we made ourselves the focus and made a
Right.
performance out of it, right? Like
Right.
um, so I agree, man. Like I think that that's really important for producers to make. You have to
Mhm.
like. That's the thing. Is like you said, like MCs have that power to do that, and like it's not. You can't blame an MC for like if you're not with them and you're not performing with them. If you're not their DJ, if you're not their backer, and you make beats
Right.
for them, you have to expect them to hit the to be able
Right.
to perform that stuff. And like you said, if it becomes the thing where they become popular, um beyond your splits, like how do you capitalize on that, right? And
Right.
you have to get yourself out there, you have to be known, and
Mhm.
like you should take those beats if they're hot and you should be performing those beats, or like
Mhm.
find ways to do content online or whatever it is.
Mhm.
um and I'm like you said, like if you form good relationships, and I'm lucky enough in those situations that like for me, I work with enough MCs that like I'm
Yeah.
not sweating
Right.
MCs on the road working, doing that stuff. To me, it's dope. Like, also, there's like a value too in an MC, like, because I know my people, if they're out performing over my beats, they're going to shout me out,
Right.
and they're going to
Indeed.
let the audience know who I am and who this beat is.
Right.
Because I'm confident with those relationships with those MCs. You know what I mean? Like we've connected, and I know that they have the same respect for me that I have for them. So, um, yeah, but it's important for producers
Right.
to make sure that it's there.
Absolutely. You know what else I would like to see? Like, say you do a project. Say you and John Creasy do an out. Which y'all have done projects. Okay, y'all do a project. Y'all put it out or whatever. But then you put out the instrumental version.
Oh yeah.
You keep that money. He
Hmm.
puts out the acapella version. He keeps that money.
Hmm.
So now you get money from the splits from the
Yeah.
album y'all did together. But
Mhm,
then you get money from putting out the instrumental version of that album.
mhm,
He'll get money from putting out an acapella, and that'll be for the other producers that want to do remixes.
mhm,
You have the album, the instrumental version for other people, other MCs who want to spit over those beats and do freestyles or whatever over those beats. I think that'd be dope as well.
Yeah, man, totally. Well, I'm always like
Mhm.
I'm inspired by some like the producers that I came up on, and if you listen to like Primo's instrumental
Mhm.
albums or like
Mhm.
Dilla's or Pete Rock
Right,
or whatever, you'll hear some beats that will appear on albums too,
right.
or early versions or different types of flips of things that they've done.
Mhm.
So like if you look at my beat tapes that I've done, like you'll see like
Yeah,
some of that stuff pops up, instrumental versions will pop up,
yeah.
or yeah, sometimes like if we do vinyl, like we'll do like an instrumental flip on side of something, or like you know what I mean? Because I
Mhm.
agree. I think it's important to get that stuff out there too, man. Like
Absolutely.
and also like to me, like I love just like both as like a fan and as a producer. I love listening to instrumental records,
Right.
and I love like putting together beats as an album and like sort of thinking about what beats go together and like what would make the tightest beat tape or what a good concept for a beat tape would be or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right. All right. So before I let you go, we're gonna play. You've seen Drink Champs, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, this is what we're gonna do. Now you can't. We're not drinking, so you can't say both. You can't take a shot. You got to say one person. You have to pick one. All
Okay.
right. So we're gonna go through it. First one: Camouflage Monk or Derringer.
Camouflage Monk.
Camouflage Monk. Okay. Number two: Sadhu Gold or Conductor Williams.
Conductor Williams.
Okay. Klypto or the Historian.
Klepto.
Okay. Denny LaFleur or Nicholas Craven.
Craven.
Okay. Number five. This one people get mad at. Madlib or Jay Dilla.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh.
Um, I'm gonna give Madlib the edge today.
Okay. Six. Ninth Wonder or Crisis.
Ninth.
Ninth. Okay. Seven. Here's another one. Large Professor or Diamond D.
Ooh, that's a good one. I gotta. Diamond D doesn't get enough credit. I want to say that, but I gotta go with Large Professor because that's like he's been my hero. So,
Okay. Number eight. DJ Premier or Pete Rock.
ooh, there's another one people should be getting mad at.
Yeah.
Primo. I'll go with Primo.
All right. Number nine. Dirty Diggs or the Standouts.
The standouts.
Standouts. 10. Havoc or The Alchemist.
Ooh. I gotta go with Uncle Al, man.
Okay. 11. Big Ghost LTD or DJ Muggs.
This one, I might be the maddest at this one, man. To be honest, um, I don't want to pick against either of these guys. I need to say that because Muggs is an absolute legend. Um, but Big Ghost is a modern legend, really, man. Like,
Mhm.
he might, if someone said he's the number one modern rap producer, I wouldn't argue with people.
Yeah,
The way he puts together,
man.
I have a lot of respect because the way he puts together individual projects with MCs, he seeks out
Mhm.
MCs and has a vision for each project and has a
Right.
sound. I have such respect for the way he puts together records. So I'm going with Big Ghost on this one.
Big Ghost. Okay. 12. Vanderslice or Stu Bangers.
Vanderslice,
Okay. Marley Marl or Hitman Howie T.
Marley.
Marley. Okay. Easy Mo B or Ski Beats.
I'm gonna give Ski the nod on this one.
All right. This is the last one. The Beat Nuts or the Beat Miners.
There's a lot of them making me mad on this one. I'll go with the Beat Nuts. Go with the
Beat
nuts on this
Nuts.
one.
Word out. Word out. All right. Listen, Uncle Festa, I appreciate you taking the time to chop it up with me and things like that. It was a pleasure having you on strictly for my diggers and things like that. You've gave it a lot of jewels, a lot of information. It was just really, really dope. Gave me a lot broader perspective on beat making, your process, and things like that. You're definitely doing your thing. You know, I had to have you on the show. I've been hearing your name and seeing your name for a while now, so I just wanted to salute you properly and give you your flowers. You
Well,
know.
I appreciate that, man. I really appreciate. I love coming on. I love coming on like a producer centric,
Yeah.
podcast, man. Like I don't, like people who, someone who knows the right questions to ask to a producer, So
Right.
I really appreciate that and be able to
Yeah.
come talk about the craft and,
Right.
and get down to that sort of
Mhm.
conversation, man. So I appreciate that a lot. I
Yeah,
appreciate you
yeah,
having.
yeah, yeah. This is because this is beat maker to beat maker. So this is not your
Yeah,
average,
yeah,
type of interaction. This
hmm
beat is, it's we're talking beat science,
yeah,
and
absolutely,
things like that. So
absolutely.
yeah, I just want to thank you for coming on, man.
Yeah, man. Likewise, I appreciate it.
All right, peace.
Peace.
Sun shining.
I'm in a mastercraft, nigga, you in a Cadillac. I gadgets black, targeting bastard cats, finna renew the earth. We move disturb, you gangsters ain't got the stomach for our type work. Eating breakfast with the chrome toe, so when we go toe to toe, I hold the oath and keep my soldiers slow. So we go from the abode, they motion to go. They do not get what it takes. Look how